TechNet Saturday at 7 p.m. W5FC. This is the W5FC repeater, PL110.9.
Getting ready to start Skynet. If anybody needs to use the repeater, please do so within the next minute or so. This is N5BB.
Mr. Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
This is N5BB, November 5 Bravo Bravo. My name is Bill. I'll be your net control for this session of the Dallas Amateur Radio Club Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday evening at 9 p.m. concerning the subjects of astronomy and space. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for the net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the pro sign break in your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic at this time? is a directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from net control. That would be me and 5BEB. And stations are reminded to identify at the end of your transmissions. This weekly net operates on 146.88 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using a W5FC-R station identification or Echolink node 37247. I am logged into Echolink and looking at the current check-ins. Tonight's topics: astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio video links are available online. Go to www.w5fc.org right now for the complete list. Remember to tell others about this popular net. All amateur operators are welcome. You do not need to be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. This is N5BB, Skynet Net Control. The net is 90 minutes long, structured in several parts. General announcements: Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas, National Space Society. The discussion topic of the evening was space explorations and space history, the constellation of the week, space launches of the week, recent astronomical discoveries, and if we have any time for it, the visible satellite passengers over the next couple of days, followed by astronomical questions and answers and the 73 round. Again, all amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. So let's start with a short-time check-in. Any station that can't stay very long, please come now with your call sign, your name, and your location. This is N5BB, Skynet, short-time check-ins. Well, that's a very short list, 0 of short-time check-ins. So now let's look for general check-ins. This is general RF check-ins. We'll do Echolink later. So general RF check-ins, please come now with your call sign, your name, and your location. This is Skynet and 5BB Net Control.
Kilo Golf 5 Bravo Zulu Whiskey J, no effort. K2 OIZ. George. Handles George, Roy City, Texas.
This is Alpha Alpha 5 Alpha Hotel Robert Richards.
This is Kilo 5 Kilo Tango X-Ray Kelly in Quinlan.
Kilo Foxtrot 5 Zulu Bravo Lima Bill Farmers Branch.
This is
5 Oscar Zulu Lima, Brendan DeSoto.
This is Alpha Golf 5 Papa Mike, Rich in Rockwall, AG 5 p.m.
This is Kilo Echo 5 India Charlie X-Ray, Tom, Louisville.
Whiskey 7 Kilo Yankee Golf Calvin in Arlington.
This is Whiskey 5 Golf Uniform Sierra Gus, far, far northeast Dallas.
Kilo Foxtrot 5 Juliet Hotel Alpha,
Let's see now, Chaz, yeah, okay, let's see now, the universe, Milky Way galaxy, the solar system, planet Earth, North American continent, United States, Texas, mesquite.
Okay, let's pause there. I would like to recognize KG5BZW. Hello, Jay. K2OIZ, George, over on the east side in Royce City. AA5AH, hello, Robert and Richardson. K5KTZ, Kelly, also on the east side over in Quinlan. KF5ZBL, Bill, centrally located. WB5OZL, Brenda, on the south side. AG5PM, Rich in Rockwell, over on the east side. W7KYG, Arlington, on the west side of Dallas, west of Dallas. W5GUS, Gus in far, far, far northeast Dallas. And KF5JHA, Chaz, in the universe commonly known as Mesquite. Okay, do we have any other check-ins via RF to Skynet? If so, please come now.
November 5, Oscar Foxtrot, Clay, in the same universe, also in Mesquite.
Whiskey Delta Niner, Golf Echo Tango, Keith, Mobile in Dallas.
Okay, I'd also like to recognize N50F, hello Clay, and WD9GET, hello Keith. Question, Keith, are you local here or are you visiting?
Negative, we're just visiting for the weekend, though I have periodically checked in on Echolink.
Very good, Keith. Welcome. You are welcome any way you want to check into this net. Thank you very much. So, do we have any other RF check-ins to Skynet? This is N5BB.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey Victor Lima, James in Carrollton.
Okay, and KG5WVL, James. Do we have any other RF check-ins for Skynet? This is N5BB. Okay, now let's go over to Echolink. Let's see, Shane and Bethany, W0MBC. Do our, I believe it's Blue Springs, Missouri, visitors want to say anything on Echolink? If so, come right now, Shane and Bethany, and check in. Well, they must be having some trouble transmitting, but I'm checking you in, Shane and Bethany. It's good to hear you on here. Let's see, N5IMS is listening only tonight. JJ, why did I guess that? That's a normal situation. And then we have, Kelly's already here, Chaz is already here. K5ICX, Tom, do you want to check in?
Yeah, I'll give it a shot. Can you hear me? This is KE5ICX.
Okay, Okay, that's strange. Shane, W0MBC. Try again. You didn't make it over the RF link. Try again. See if you can check in, Shane. We'll listen. Well, that is strange. I'm not hearing you over RF, and on my end, I can't hear you on Echolink. Tom, K5ICX, same complaint for you. Can you try over RF, Tom?
Yeah, I was trying to fix something. I had the radio misconfigured. Can you hear me? KE5ICX.
Yep, lots of hum, but we heard you. W0MBC is trying an Echolink, but we can't hear him. Is that route not working right now?
I don't know. I'm looking now.
Okay, we'll come back to that a little bit later. So we'll let you look at that, Tom, and then maybe we'll let you do a test later over Echolink or something. Okay, do we have any other check-ins? And by the way, you can just type some... Oh, Glenn, KG5QXI, Glenn and Rockwall. Glenn, if you can type on the Echolink, can you tell me there if you'd like to check in since the audio isn't working? Give us a try there, Glenn. Okay, station calling. I see Glenn sending on the text message, but I don't know. Glenn, I don't know which station that was. Whichever station that was, try one more time. You're very noisy. Go ahead. Okay, I could tell somebody was talking, but I couldn't hear their call sign. Maybe a Kilo Echo 5. Did anybody happen to catch the call sign or name of that station?
I think it was KI5EDU. Kilo India 5 Echo Delta Uniform, but I don't know. And check me in for the count. N8WWR, Romeo and Grapevine. Thank you.
Okay, we got your Romy, N8WWR. The weak station, just tell me yes or no. Is your call sign KI5BDU? Over. Okay, a KI5 Tango, and what's the last two letters? I heard X-ray, so I believe you said Kilo India 5 Tango X-ray. Is there one more letter? Okay, I'm sorry, we're not going to be able to get your call sign. Maybe later you can either try checking into Echolink if you have an account and texting it to us, or maybe you can try increasing your power or antenna location because you're just too noisy right now into the Dallas repeater. Okay, one more try. Do we have anybody else that'd like to check in to Skynet? This is N5BB, net control.
KG5WRN.
Okay, the WRN station, please give me your call sign again.
Golf 5, Romeo, November.
I think that's Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey, Romeo, November. Is that correct?
That is correct, sir. Thanks for picking me up. This is Mike in West Fort Worth.
Very good, Mike. Yeah, good to see you there today. KG5WRN. Very good. You're just barely making the repeater. Okay, so any other check-ins to Skynet? This is N5BB net control.
One more time. Kilo India 5, Tango X-ray India. Is this better?
Oh, yes, we can hear you now. KF5TXI. What was your name and location?
Name is Archie, here in South Lake, Texas.
Very good. KF5TXI, Archie at South Lake. My grandfather's name was Archie. Very good. Okay. Now we've already done the Echolink and the RF check-ins. There'll be time for later check-ins later in the net if some stations need to come in. And I forgot to check in Tom. Okay. Now let's move to the next part of the net. General announcements. Are there any general announcements for licensed hams? This is something involving astronomy, space, or anything else. General announcements. Please come now. This is N5BB, net control. Okay, nothing heard. I want to thank everybody that attended the Irving Amateur Radio Club Irving Ham Fest today, especially the Dallas Amateur Radio Club volunteers that helped us. It's kind of a joint project. And everybody else that visited. We actually sold out of our admission tickets, and we sold out, after we found the spare tickets, we sold out the raffle tickets. So we had a very good turnout. We really had a lot of fun over there. Okay, next, since we've got no other announcements, AMSAT has nets available locally. On Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m., you can check in to the East session of the local AMSAT net. It's at 8 p.m. on this repeater. And then on Wednesday evenings at 9 p.m., there's another AMSAT net on the Arlington 147.14 megahertz repeater. So we have repeaters in Dallas County and Tarrant County where you can deal with AMSAT things every week. Then on this repeater, on Monday we have the first week of the month. On Monday we have ham fixings net. The second Monday we have MCOM, Emergency Communications net. The third week of the month, again, another ham fixings net. The fourth Monday of the month we have GeekNet, all kinds of geeky things. If there is a fifth week of the month, this is only certain months have it, it's a surprise net. If we knew what it was, we can't tell you, it'd be a surprise. On Friday evenings, we have Search City Simulation Net. about emergency preparedness on this frequency. And on Saturdays, we, of course, have TechNet from 7 to 8 p.m. and Skynet from 9 to 10:30 p.m. and the Afterglow Net starting at 10:30 after Skynet is finished. And tonight's movie, Tom, K5ICX, do you want to describe tonight's movie, which is Raise the Titanic from 1980? Go ahead, Tom. This is N5BB.
Why, thank you, Bill. And yes, I'll be working on the buzz that's coming from the radio. It's actually not coming from the radio, but from the mixer that's sitting here. I will have it hopefully fixed tomorrow. Okay, here it is. Tonight's Afterglow info. The sea captains all looked at each other with satisfaction. The agency's story had been shared by their fellow seamen for decades. Everyone knew the story of the Titanic, the unsinkable ship that sank. But they also knew its secret, one the general public didn't know. It carried the very first shipment of speaking dolls. It was 1981, and the doll which every young child, every young girl wanted was the Maggie Can't Stop Talking doll. A little girl could insert a 1-hour cassette tape into doll Maggie's mouth, and it would spew baby chatter for an hour. The sea captains knew the sunk Titanic had its own version. Elizabeth, the audio-articulating marionette of extraordinary abilities, tucked away in the ship's cargo hold. With a little luck, they could raise the ship, redress the dolls in a sweat headband, exercise culottes, and add big hair and install a new Edison cylinder with "Let's Get Physical." And they had the answer to the Titanic's secret treasure and make a financial killing for Christmas in 1982. Join us for the next Afterglow movie, Raise the Titanic, tonight at 10:30 p.m. Be there or be square. Back to you, Bill. This is KE5ICX.
And if you believe that, I've got a certain bridge I'd like to sell you in New York. Okay. So, do we have any other check-ins to Skynet? This is N5BB, Net Control. I see Billy, KF5PDS, over in Echolink. Billy, can you try doing voice on Echolink and we can see if it's working again? KF5PDS, N5BB, if possible, come back on voice on Echolink.
Foxtrot 5, Papa Delta Sierra, Billy and Sherman on Echolink. Am I readable?
Yes, you are. It's perfect. KF5PDS, N5BB. It's working great. Shane, do you and Bethany want to try checking in again? Maybe we can hear you now. Well, that's strange. Shane, we didn't hear anything. Well, I didn't hear you over Echolink. I saw it transmitting, but I didn't hear any audio. I didn't hear any audio over RF. So I'm not sure what's happening there on your signal because it's working for Billy, but not for you. We'll have to figure that out later, Shane. Maybe an audio problem on your end. I'm not sure. Anyway, now, any other check-ins via any mode? This is N5BB, Skynet Net Control. This is
Whiskey, Bravo, number 4, Mike, Foxtrot, India, WB4MFI, Ted, Dallas, low power.
WB4MFI. We got you, Ted. Welcome to Skynet. Any other check-ins? Okay. JJ says he heard Shane's transmission over Echolink, but when I turned up the volume, I saw Shane transmitting, but I couldn't hear anything, and I didn't hear anything over RF, so I'm not sure, JJ, what's going on. Okay, next, let's go to the next part of the net, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events. Chaz, tell us about TAS. KF5GH, JHA, this is N5BB, Skynet.
Mr. Net Control, it was so nice to see you today, and a whole bunch of people that's on Skynet tonight. Got to see them, even told some jokes around the table today. That was kind of fun. Oh, the next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting will be held on Friday, March the 25th, 2022, at 7:30 p.m. The meeting will be held over Zoom. Maybe April or May we'll be back in person. We'll see. Dr. Michael Pierce from the Department of Physics and Astronomy at the University of Wyoming will be our featured speaker. The topic is, I don't know what the topic is. I still have to find that out. The Task Club members will receive an email link to the Zoom meeting in advance of the meeting. Now, Saturday night public observing sessions have been placed on hold for about 2 years. One of the reasons why Skynet was picked to be on Saturday nights was so that there was be an opportunity for live reports from the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas public observing sessions, but that's not happening, so we're not getting live reports. If you want to find more information out about the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas, go to their website, texasastro.org, for up-to-date information and details about their meetings. I think we've got something about the National Space Society. I wonder who we could call on for that. Oh, this is KF5JJ.
I wondered. Thank you, Chaz. This is N5BB, Net Control for Skynet. I happen to be the membership director of the North Texas chapter of the National Society, the National Space Society. I'll get it out here. We are having our March meeting, as always, on the second Sunday of March. So that will be in 8 days on Sunday, March the 13th, starting at 3:30 p.m. The meeting this month, the topic is going to be about, I think, the roadmap to space. I'm not looking at the topic right now. Anyway, it will be an in-person event, and we're going to try to also send it out over WebEx. So we're going to try for a hybrid thing, which is difficult because I've done it before, but it's really hard. Anyway, if anybody's got a complete setup for that works really well, I'd like to talk to them because I have a setup, but it's a pain. Okay, so if you have an interest in National Space Society or our local chapter, you can send me an email at space@byrom.net, that's BYROM.net, or N5BB@ARRL.net. That's November 5 Bravo Bravo at ARRL.net. And tell me, and you can visit the meeting remotely, and you can also, if you send me an email, I can tell you how to visit the meeting in person. It will be at Spring Creek Barbecue in Irving, which is the southwest corner of Beltline Road and Highway 183, a couple of miles east of the south entrance of DFW Airport. So we're not doing any local events here in the near future. The next one's going to be in a few weeks. It's going to be 2 weeks from today. That's not too far away. This is the Girl Scout event, the Design Your World STEM event, which is in Dallas at the Camp Wisdom area. It's a facility kind of adjacent to the Boy Scouts Camp Wisdom. And it's going to be a STEM event for Girl Scouts. And the National Space Society will have a table be presenting there. That's our only short-term event coming up here other than our meeting. Okay. Before I go on with the... And by the way, you can reach us on our website, nssofnt.org. That's nssofnt.org. And we need to do some more work on our website. Sorry about that. And there's also a Facebook page. Look for National Space Society of North Texas in the Facebook search, and you'll find us. Okay, do we have any other check-ins or comments or questions? This is N5BB, Skynet Net Control. Okay, this is N5BB, Skynet, from the Dallas Amateur Radio Club in Dallas, Texas area. Unfortunately, you have to listen to me now again because the discussion topic of the evening by the Net Control, of course, is by me. My topic is going to be from Quanta Magazine, the current recent issue. And the topic is In Search of Cracks in Albert Einstein's Theory of Gravity. The big bullet points are Cecilia Escamilla Rivera is combining large data sets with superconductors to test general relativity against various competitors. She leads the Department of Gravitation and Field Theory at the National Autonomous University of Mexico. During the solar eclipse in 1919, author Eddington observed light bending around the sun just as predicted by general relativity, Albert Einstein's new theory of gravity. Since then, general relativity, which says that massive objects like stars warp the fabric of space-time around them, has passed increasingly precise tests. A year rarely goes by without a new experiment or observation confirming Einstein's theory. But there's a hitch. Invisible substances known as dark matter and dark energy seem to make up 95% of the content of the universe. The working assumption is that dark matter consists of non-luminous elementary particles and that dark energy is the energy of space itself. But it's also possible they are illusions that appear because gravity works differently than how Einstein thought about it. We're invoking these mysterious things, says cosmologist Cecilia Escamilla Rivera. I am strongly convinced that alternative theories of gravity are needed. This is N5BB, Dallas Amateur Radio Club, Skynet. Escamilla Rivera is searching for another, more complete theory. A bewildering array of alternatives to general relativity have been put forward over time, from teleparallel gravity. Let me repeat that. Teleparallel gravity to complex quintessence and negative mass cosmology, but they long seem like theoretical fancies. With cosmologists unable to create experiments that can distinguish these theories from general relativity, the ideas have gathered dust. According to Iss Rivera, that's beginning to change in this new era of precision cosmology, a field she is pioneering in her home country of Mexico. Precision cosmology combines large and diverse data sets with new statistical methods, machine learning, and supercomputers. Thanks to this data, you can open a door and classify all these theories and say which ones work and which ones don't, she said. By scouring the early universe and the extreme environments of black holes, Iss Rivera thinks we can find cracks in general relativity, which will make way for something else. This isn't conventional wisdom among cosmologists, but Iss Rivera's path to becoming a cosmologist hasn't been conventional either. She grew up in Ciudad, I think it's pronounced Ciudad del Carmen, a city on a small island in southern Mexico. She remembers walking along the beach at night under a full moon at age 4, wondering, why is the moon very round? And why does it only come out at night? I thought I needed to become an astronaut, she said. Years later, watching one of her university professors compute the age of the universe directly from Einstein's equations, she switched her focus to cosmology. People were like, why do you want to be a cosmologist? These are careers for people in the United States, she said. It was seen as very weird. Iss Rivera completed her doctorate in Europe and the United Kingdom. Then at 29, she was invited back to Mexico to run the theoretical physics department of the Mesoamerican Center for Theoretical Physics. A few years later, she became the first woman to hold a research position in the Department of Gravitation and Field Theory at the National Autonomous University of Mexico as the head of the department. The reporter for this story spoke for 4 hours over Zoom to Iss Rivera from her office in Mexico City. And I'm going to kind of roll through this and skip some parts. So why does she think we need to modify or extend gravity? The problem is that general relativity is not general enough. If you want to explain dark energy, this invisible energy that seems to be accelerating the universe's expansion, you need an extra component in the equation called the cosmological constant. This extra component doesn't exist naturally in general relativity. You need to add it by hand. Is there a theory that naturally can give you dark energy without invoking mysterious things? That's why I'm working on these extended or modified theories of gravity. Other than dark energy, what other puzzles could these theories solve? General relativity explains a lot of nature, but doesn't explain what happened in the Big Bang or inside black holes. Also, general relativity doesn't explain the future of the universe. Some theories say the universe is going to collapse again into another Big Bang called the Big Crunch universe. But we don't know this because general relativity is incomplete. So, she thinks a different theory than general relativity will work better everywhere. including black holes and the Big Bang. So she says these theories are called scalar tensor theories. That's scalar tensor theories. These are more general than general relativity. Why? Well, general relativity describes space-time using a mathematical object called a tensor. In scalar tensor theories, there are also objects called scalars. A scalar can be something physical like mass or energy, and it permeates space-time. This is N5BB Skynet net control. So it behaves a bit like the cosmological constant in general relativity? Exactly. Except that in this scalar tensor theory, you don't add anything. That comes out of the mathematics. This is not the only alternative. In the 1980s, there was an explosion of these modified gravity theories. Mathematically, these theories are very rich. Nothing can stop you. But with so many theories at hand, we're limited by experiments to tell them apart. And she got pulled into this because now we have machine learning and superconductors, and supercomputers, and these can pull all this huge amount of data together that we're getting, and that makes it easier to test these theories. She was the first person to publish a paper that uses machine learning to study dark energy in cosmological models. Machine learning architectures can now even look at large cosmological data sets and derive a theory of gravity. This is a new era. Another new way to test these alternative theories is to do simulations on a supercomputer. You can control your own universe and make projections about which theory is going to work. And she's describing how she moved from Europe back to Mexico. And what challenges did she face building her research group? Part of the university community thought that cosmologists only need paper and pencil. It's more than that. You need supercomputers. You need the chance to travel to meetings, to build relationships, and collaborate. All this requires a lot of financial support. And they now have some, including the Royal Astronomical Society. Their Precision Cosmology group now has 20 people. So they got some cool things they're doing in Mexico, in 5BB. When do you expect observations will start to digress or disagree with general relativity? We're close to that. I am sure that the recently launched James Webb Space Telescope is going to open a new door with observations closer to the origin of the universe. We'll see an era when hydrogen and helium are fusing to form the first galaxies in the universe. I suspect general relativity is not going to work at that time because the energy is so high. So that era can give you a very truthful test about what kinds of theory you want to correct. Is correct. Which alternative theory would you put your money on? This is in 5BB. She says, I would put my money on teleparallel gravity. How does that differ from general relativity? In general relativity, an important concept is a space-time curvature, which tells you about the distribution of matter. You can see the sun is a big mass that's put on a sheet, and the sheet starts to curve. Einstein made the relationship between matter and geometry the basis of the universe. In paraparallel gravity, the sun is forming something like a tornado. So instead of curvature, the sheet is twisted. This is called torsion. Paraparallel gravity was actually one of Einstein's final calculations in the last part of his life. Some people were writing a new mathematics using torsion, When Einstein saw this, he saw a way of connecting his theory of gravity, general relativity, and another very important force, electromagnetism. He said, okay, maybe we can unify all the forces. Unfortunately, he wasn't successful, and his ideas started to be forgotten. But some theorists continued to work on it. Just a couple of years ago, Jackson Levi Said at the University of Malta found it was possible to transform the language of parallel gravity into a cosmology, a set of equations that define all the parameters that we observe in nature, like a density of matter. And again, they found a match with the cosmic microwave background radiation. And right now, they don't have much evidence for parallel gravity because the current experiments here can't prove it. Because locally, it's very similar to general relativity. The differences are in the very early universe and the very far in the universe's future. Observations of the early universe with the James Webb telescope will be the first test of parallel gravity. If we can explain the formation of the first gravities better than general relativity, it will be a beautiful test. And it also might explain what they see in photos of a black hole horizon. And then she then explains that the Event Horizon Telescope had photographs of the supermassive black hole in M87, and one of the photographs shows magnetic fields around the black hole. All the field lines are following the same flow. It's very elegant. One of the groups inside the Event Horizon Telescope collaboration is looking for solutions in general relativity. But another group, which she is part of, is taking her out with modifications and extensions of gravity. The problem is, to distinguish these possibilities, we need more data. The idea now is to take a movie of the black hole to see its evolution. Maybe it will give us better restrictions in the theories we want to test. When you were a kid, did you ever imagine that you would end up challenging Einstein? Challenging Einstein? Probably. I think this is the dream of any kid that wants to understand the cosmos. That's all. This is N5BB. Do we have any questions, comments, or late check-ins?
November 5, Oscar X-ray.
That station was weak. November 5, Oscar. Is that Oscar OXY? Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, am I coming into weak?
Okay, you're very weak, and your audio's weak, but I got your call at 50XY. Do we have any other check-ins or comments or questions in 5BB, Skynet? Okay, that station has no audio. Please try again. Nothing heard. Now it's time for Was Up. Chaz, KF5GHA. Take it away, Chaz. This is N5BB. Skynet.
For those of you that don't know this, we do have three different modes. We've talked about this for Skynet. One, of course, is radio frequency. That's what I'm transmitting using a radio right now. But we also have Echolink over here, and we also have video. One of the main ones on video is YouTube. Anyway, but on Echolink, you can sit there, and there's a chat window, and we've been doing a joke marathon. So that's pretty funny. Oh, I've got to answer a question over here that I posed for them. Okay, there we go. All right, yes, this is Chaz, KF5JHA, and my degree is in astrophysics. I'm in charge of the astrophysics lab and geology lab at Dallas College on the Brookhaven campus, and we call this segment of Skynet Was Up. slide master, and that would be Tom. Thank you so much for being our slide master. Slide number 2, please. In the 1700s, astronomers were interested in observing and discovering comets, and one French astronomer, Charles Messier, was one of those comet hunters. He had a problem. He kept mistaking these fuzzy things that were scattered throughout the sky for comets. These fuzzy things did not move compared to the stars, and so no one really knew what they were, so they were mostly ignored. But for Charles Messier, these fuzzy things were bothersome. Slide number 3, please. So Messier decided to write down the location in the sky of these permanent fuzzy things so he would not mistake them for a comet. He started with a few on his list, and then more were added. Slide number 4, please. His friend and assistant, Pierre Michan, I believe that's how you pronounce it, helped Messier to compile the list of these objects. Slide number 5, please. The first list of 45 of these objects was published in 1774 in the French Academy of Science in Paris. Only 17 of these 45s were credited to Messier, with the others having been seen and observed by other astronomers. By 1780, the list had increased to 80 objects. Slide number 6, please. In 1784 edition of, I'm going to mess this up, Connaissance des Temps, I don't know how to pronounce it, the official yearly publication of the Astronomical Ephemerides in France, a total of 103 objects were listed, but through historical research, 7 more objects have been added to this list. So now we recognize 110 Messier objects in the sky. In the 1700s, it was a list of things not to look at because they were not comets, and astronomers back then did not understand them. Slide number 7, please. Now that list, most astronomers observe and image nightly. This list contains open star clusters, globular star clusters, elliptical galaxies, spiral galaxies, irregular galaxies, reflection nebulas, emission nebulas, planetary nebulas, and a supernova remnant, and more. Slide number 8, please. This list of 110 Messier objects are not scattered evenly through the sky. In fact, there's a time of year when, if you're in the right location on the Earth and the moon is around the new phase, then you can observe all 110 objects in just a single night of observing between sunset to sunrise. And that time of the year is around the vernal equinox. The location on the Earth that works the best is the southern part of northern hemisphere. Trying to observe as many of the M objects in one night is called a Messier marathon. Slide master, slide number 9, please. Back in the late 1970s and early 1980s, I participated in several Messier marathons. One such Messier marathon, we used a 32-inch telescope at Perkins Observatory in Powell, Ohio. A few more than a dozen of us got to observe 108 out of the 110 objects that night. That's the most I've done on a Messier marathon. Slide number 10, please. In 2019, the full moon fell exactly on the same day as the vernal equinox, so that was not an ideal year to get 110 M objects in one night. The Texas Astronomical Society tried to hold a Messier marathon at their observing location on the night of March the 2nd and 3rd. But the weather didn't cooperate. So they tried it again on the 9th and 10th. Once again, clouds won. The clear night was not to be had. So the third time they tried in 2019, they tried it on the night of March the 30th, 31st, but once again, clouds got in the way. So March 2020, well, we know what happened there, don't we? COVID got in the way. And by March, everything in the country was shut down. For us in North Texas, the 2020 Messier Marathon never took place, and probably didn't take place in most other places either. Slide number 11, please. In 2021, the weekend of March 12th through the 14th, TASS tried to do a Messier marathon. It did not take place again due to COVID. TASS will not do a Messier marathon this year in 2022 either. Usually the Messier marathon takes place on a Saturday night. If a Messier marathon happens in 2023, I plan to be in a dark location trying to find faint fuzzies. And if I'm lucky, I'll report over Echolink to report on my efforts. Okay, back to what's up. Slide number 12, please. The new moon phase was on March the 2nd, so the current phase of the moon is a waxing crescent. The moon will be at its first quarter phase on March the 10th, that's in 5 days. Also on March the 10th, the moon is at apogee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth at a distance of 404,268 kilometers. The full moon will be on March the 18th. Today, on March the 23rd, the moon will be at perigee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth at a distance of 369,760 kilometers. On March the 25th, the moon will be at its third quarter phase. Slide number 13, please. A conjunction of our two closest planets, Venus and Mars, takes place on March the 13th in our early morning southeastern sky. I think that'll be a great photographic opportunity for some people. Slide number 14. Jupiter and Mercury will be in conjunction in the morning of March the 20th in the very low southeastern sky. East southeastern sky. If you can spot Jupiter and Mercury in the strong twilight, then you should be able to spot three other planets to the upper right: Saturn, Venus, and Mars. This means you will have an opportunity to see all 5 of the naked eye visible planets at the same time. That's going to be pretty interesting. That happens every once in a while. Slide number 15. On March the 24th, Venus, Mars, and Saturn will make a nice conjunction with each other in the southeastern sky. But very low in the southeastern sky, you may still be able to see Jupiter and Mercury, so all 5 visible planets once again. But a bonus, the planet Neptune can be spotted with a telescope in between Jupiter and Mercury. Interesting. And if you want one more planet, look down at your feet. Slide number 16. The next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting will be held once again on Friday, March the 25th. Dr. Michael Pearson, Department of Physics and Astronomy at the University of Wyoming, will be the featured speaker. Let's see now. Of course, we don't have any observing sessions going on, but if you want to find out more information about all of the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, go to texasastro.org. There's even a calendar. There's how to buy a telescope or a pair of binoculars. Lots of different pieces of information on the website. Slide number 17, please. So, do any of you out there in Radio Land have a question or need a fill on any of the information, or you just have a general astronomy question? I don't know everything, but I may know the answer to your question, or someone else here on the net might know the answer to your question. Come now with your call sign if you have a question. I guess you're afraid that I might tell some more jokes. Okay, slide number 18, please. So as the moon wanes at the end of February, so do these words for this segment of Skynet. Stay safe, keep well, pray for our world. It's the only one where humans live. And until next week, actually I'll be doing another segment on Skynet in a few minutes. Keep looking up so you know what's up. Also pray for Ukraine. My name is Jazz, and this is KF5JHA, sending it back to our net control. Bill, are you still awake? Did you wake up with the chickens this morning?
No, Chaz, I did not. No roosters or chickens or hens were involved. This is N5BB, Skynet Net Control. Do we have any questions, comments, or late check-ins? If so, please come down.
Golf 5, Zulu Mike Golf, Joe in Arlington.
KG5ZMG, yes, Joe, I saw you over on Echolink, and there you are in RF. Good to hear you there. Okay, do we have any other check-ins or comments or questions? N5BB, Net Control.
Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey Victor Lima.
Okay, KG5WVL, I believe that's James, is that correct?
That's correct. KG5WVL.
Well, gotcha. You just check in, or you have a comment or question, James?
I have a comment.
Go right ahead.
If anybody was watching this evening, there was a beautiful crescent moon off probably a few degrees to the north and the west that I had taken a picture of. And that was a nice setting. I guess it was in a setting position. KG5WBL.
Well, very good. It must have cleared up. Chaz, do you have any comments about the moon?
Oh, yes. It would have been a wonderful sight to see. I'm sorry I didn't go out and look because it's been cloudy all day long, but there was prediction that it was going to be cleared. I'm glad you went out and looked at it. I love to watch the sky and the dance of the planets and the moon and the stars across the sky, too. Thanks for sharing that with us. KF5JHA.
Right. Kelly, if you're listening in there, do you have any comments about the it getting clear and there being a good moon to the northwest, or whatever direction it was?
This is K5KTX. I did get to see it very briefly this evening. I'm really hoping, but I'm kind of doubtful that it will be clear tomorrow night, because tomorrow night Uranus is supposed to be very close to the moon. So if you got a pair of binoculars, I think if you go out, you can take a look at it. This is K5KTX.
Very good, Kelly. There's James. There's some more details there. Hope that helps. Okay, next it's time for Brenda, WB5OZL. I think it's your week, Brenda, for space exploration in space history. Take it away. This is N5BB.
Thank you, Bill. This is WB5OZL. All right, first up, the Artemis 1 moon rocket is getting closer to rolling out of the Vehicle Assembly Building, the VAB, at NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida for the first time. The first two of 20 platforms surrounding the Space Launch System, the SLS, and Orion spacecraft that allow work on the integrated system inside the building were retracted for rollout to Launch Complex 39B. Teams retracted the platforms, which move like hydraulic kitchen drawers, near the launch abort system on the Orion spacecraft in anticipation of the roll. Teams are continuing to install instrumentation on the SLS's twin solid rocket boosters inside the VAB. Thousands of sensors and special instruments will monitor this rocket and spacecraft as they roll out for the first time on March 17th and make the 4-mile journey to Launch Complex 39B, arriving on March 18th. Engineers will capture as much data as possible on the performance of all the systems that are part of the rocket, spacecraft, ground systems used for rollout, and on the pad for propellant loading and other activities. Once all the rocket and spacecraft systems are inspected, the 322-foot-tall rocket will roll to the launch pad for the wet dress rehearsal test. which is scheduled to occur approximately 2 weeks after it arrives to 39B. The last steps remaining before rollout include inspecting each piece of the rocket and spacecraft, including physically entering different components of SLS and step-by-step making sure the SLS and Orion are ready for the trip to the launch pad. As inspections continue, the Kennedy Ground Systems team is working to remove equipment and scaffolding away from the rocket and will continue retracting the platforms until the entire rocket is revealed. And by the way, if you'd like for your name to go to the moon on the Artemis spacecraft, visit the NASA website and sign up. It will be stored on a flash drive and sent to the moon. It is free. I've already done it. Just go to the nasa.gov and it's on the first page there. The Europa Clipper, when it's fully assembled, NASA's Europa Clipper will be as large as an SUV with solar arrays long enough to span a basketball court. All of that to help power the spacecraft during its journey to Jupiter's icy moon, Europa. And just about every detail of the spacecraft will have been handcrafted. The assembly effort is already underway in clean rooms at the agency's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Southern California. Now, engineering components and science instruments are beginning to stream in from across the country and Europe. Before year's end, most of the flight hardware, including the suite of 9 scientific instruments, is expected to be complete. The main body of the spacecraft is a giant 10-foot-tall propulsion module designed and constructed by Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Laboratory in Laurel, Maryland, with help from NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center in Greenbelt, Maryland, and JPL. The module, fitted with electronics, radios, cabling, and the propulsion subsystem, will ship to JPL this spring. The Europa Clipper's 10-foot-wide high-gain antenna also will be arriving at the lab soon. Europa, which scientists are confident harbors an internal ocean with twice the amount of water in Earth's oceans combined, may concurrently have conditions suitable for supporting life. The Europa Clipper will orbit Jupiter and conduct multiple close flybys of Europa to gather data on the moon's atmosphere, surface, and interior. A sophisticated payload will investigate everything from the depth and salinity of the ocean to the thickness of the ice crust to the characteristics of potential plumes that may be venting subsurface water into space. Once all the components have been integrated to form the large flight system, Europa Clipper will move to JPL's enormous thermal vacuum chamber for testing that simulates the harsh environment of deep space. There will also be intense vibration testing to ensure Europa Clipper can withstand the jostling of the launch. Then it's off to Cape Canaveral, Florida for an October 2024 launch. Next up, birthdays. We have Deke Slayton, March 1st, 1924, and he flew on the Apollo-Soyuz test project, or that's what he was assigned to. Bonnie J. Dunbar, March 3rd, 1949, flew on STS-61A, 32, 50, 71, and 89. Jack Luzma, February 29th, 1936, Skylab 3 and STS-3. Philip K. Chapman, March 5th, 1935, no missions. Robert Kerbeam, March 5th, 1962, STS-85, 98, and 116. James Voss, March 3rd, 1949, STS-44, 53, 69, 101, and Expedition 2, STS-102/STS-105. James C. Adamson, March 3rd, 1946, STS 28 and 43, and Michael Lambton, March 1, 1941, STS 9 and 45. This week in history, Pioneer 10 began its unprecedented multi-year journey from Earth on March 2nd, 1972. Managed by NASA's Ames Research Center in California's Silicon Valley, it was the first spacecraft designed to travel beyond the orbit of Mars. Pioneer 10's primary goal was to explore the gas giant planet Jupiter, its satellites, and its magnetic field and trapped radiation belts. The spacecraft reached its target 21 months after launch. Along the way, it completed the first crossing of the asteroid belt. Following its encounter with the solar system's largest planet, Pioneer 10 continued to explore interplanetary space in the outer reaches of the solar system and eventually became the first spacecraft sent on a trajectory to leave the solar system and enter interplanetary space. Then on March 3rd, 1969, Apollo 9 launched 3 astronauts on the first crewed test flight of NASA's lunar module, which astronauts later used to land on the moon. Astronauts James McDivitt, Dave Scott, and Rusty Schweickart orbited the Earth for 10 days. They tested the lunar module's engines and navigation systems. Okay, back to net. This is WB5OZL.
Thank you very much. Brenda, do we have any comments, questions, or late check-ins? This is N5BB, Skynet. Now let's move on to Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. Take it away, Chaz, KF5JHA. This is N5BB, Skynet, net control.
Why, thank you, Bill. Slide Master, slide number 19. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week is named in honor of Silent Key Carolyn, KC5OZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week, almost from its beginning in 2012 until May of 2019, with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Since there are about 52 easily visible constellations seen in Texas throughout the year, out of the 88 total constellations, so Miss Carolyn covered the entire sky as seen over North Texas in a year. In her honor, we've continued that tradition of a constellation per week and named this segment after Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. This week, actually a twofer. Canis Minor, the little dog, and Monoceros, the unicorn. Yep, there's a unicorn in the sky. Canis Minor's name means the lesser dog in Latin. Canis Minor represents the smaller dog following Orion, the hunter, in Greek mythology. The dog is often depicted pursuing a hare, represented by the constellation of Lepus. Monoceros is a unicorn. I would have changed it to a hippopotamus, because that would be great. Hippopotamus? Yeah, Monoceros, the hippopotamus? Okay. Monoceros, hippopotamus just sounds better. It is more modern-day constellation, Monoceros is, having been introduced in the 1600s. There are no myths associated with the constellation, in fact. Slide Master, slide number 20, please. Facing south in the evening sky, Orion can be found by looking at 3 stars of equal brightness in a straight line. And if it's clear outside, you can go do this right now. This is the belt of Orion. They're talking about that on Echolink right now. There are 2 bright stars in the belt, above the belt stars that represent Orion's shoulders. The brighter one on the left is Betelgeuse, or I usually call it Betelgeuse, and the other one to the right is Bellatrix. The 2 bright stars below Orion's belt form Orion's knees. The one on the left is Sciath, the one on the right is Rigel. You hear about Rigel on Star Trek all the time. Starting with Orion's shoulder stars, draw a line from Bellatrix to Betelgeuse and keep going. You should run into the brightest star in Canis Minor, Procyon. Between Procyon and Betelgeuse is the faint constellation of Monoceros. And Slide Master, slide number 21. Yes, and good night, Bethany. What is the difference between a carrot and a unicorn? The first is a bunny feast. The other is a funny beast. You have to watch how you say this. How do unicorns get to the park? On a unicycle. What state do unicorns like the most? Maine. You know, because they have on the back of their head a Maine. Okay. What do you call the best student at Unicorn University? Of course, the acorn. Why did the unicorn want to go to a private school? So he could wear a uniform. What do you get when you mix a unicorn and a cow? Corned beef. Okay, Slide Master, slide number 22. Please get me out of this. You heard, I had to listen to a whole bunch of jokes from my lips in person today, didn't you? Procyon. The name Procyon literally means before the dog because it rises before Sirius, the dog star. The Canis Major. Procyon is the yellow-white star of the spectral class F5. It has a mass of 1.48 solar masses. It's twice the sun's diameter and is 7.5 times more luminous than the sun. Its visual magnitude is 0.37, and the star is 11.4 light years distance. Just like its brighter companion Sirius, Procyon is also a white dwarf companion star orbiting it. Procyon B is a magnitude 13, which is really kind of faint, white dwarf, and it's very difficult to resolve due to the only 3 arc-second separation from its primary. The binary nature of Procyon was long suspected for many years before finally being confirmed. Beta Canis minoris, the name Gometia is the proper name, comes from the Arabic meaning watery-eyed, or the weeping one. This comes from the ancient Arabic legend where Canis Minor and Canis Major were 2 sisters. One of the sisters eloped, leaving the other sibling behind, and sad and lonely. Interesting. Okay. This star is a hot blue star with spectral class B8, shining at a magnitude of 2.9. It is a distance of 170 light years from us. Slide Master, slide number 23. NGC stands for New General Catalog. Object number 2350 is magnitude 12.3, really kind of faint, lenticular galaxy. According to the Annals of Deep Sky, which has an interesting introduction for this galaxy, NGC 2350 is a class S0A galaxy, which is a lenticular spiral transition type between S0 and SA. It's at a distance of 28 megaparsecs from us, which works out to be about 91.3 million light years. So it's no wonder that it's so small and faint. And it is one of the brighter galaxies in Canis Minor. All right, let's switch our gaze at Monoceros then. This is KF5, JHA, this is Skynet. Slide number 24, please. Beta Monoceros, I'm trying to get the genitive right on this, is a very nice triple star shining at magnitude 4.6. It has been confirmed to be a true trinary system. It was discovered by William Herschel in 1781. According to Burnham's Celestial Handbook, the system is believed to be at 150 to 200 light years away, and the separation between the A-B pair of stars is estimated to be about 400 light years. In a Dynamass Max 8, Beta has no color at all. All three stars appear white. The star's multiple nature is noticeable in just 41 power. One of the Dynamass 8's lower powers, in fact. At 84 power, all three stars are seen, appearing as a single bright star and two slightly fainter stars very close together. Gamma Monoceros, I think that's the right genitive for it. Gamma is a magnitude 3.98 and is a double star. It is a faint magnitude 13.1 companion with a separation of 53.7 arc seconds. Quite a wide separation. The primary star is an orange giant star with a diameter about 45 times that of the Sun. They're about 500 light years away. Slide master, slide number 25, please. M50 is an open cluster that's believed to have been first discovered sometime before the year 1711 by Cassini, the father of John Cassini, who wrote about his father's discovery in the Elements of Astronomy. Along with other things, the younger Cassini is known for discovering the gap in Saturn's rings, which now bear his name. Messier looked for the open cluster in 1771, but could not find it, and speculated that the elder Cassini may have seen an actual comet. However, the very next year, 1772, Messier did find the open cluster, and it became number 50 on his famous list of deep sky objects. The cluster is easily found in binoculars or a finder scope, and in his book, The Messier Objects, Stephen James O'Meara mentions the sightings of a red star in M50 by astronomers of the past, but notes that he could not see it. O'Meara further writes that the astronomer Brent Arkinol speculates that the reported variations in the star's color are due to variations in the observer's eyes, particularly at low light levels. Brent Arkinol, by the way, was my classmate at The Ohio State University, and we were roommates for a while. Brent Arkinol was the main organizer back in the 1980s for the Messier Marathon that I talked about and was up at Perkins Observatory. Okay, slide master, slide number 26, please. NGC 2237, 2238, and 2246 is called the Rosette Nebula. It's a large nebular complex that is best examined and detailed through photographs, which sort of indicate that there's dust lanes and globulars, and it was discovered in pieces, one section at a time. That's why there's 3 different NGC numbers with it. I'm trying to skip around because I'm looking at the time. Let me see. The fact that Rosette was discovered in one piece at a time, that's the reason why it has NGC numbers, 3 of them. For many years, the Rosette was considered to be a test object, with amateurs assuming that it was only visible by very large aperture telescopes or in photographs. The late Walter Scott Houston, always seeking to push to the envelope, began encouraging amateurs to look for the Rosette starting in the 1970s. Then in the 1980s, a revolution in amateur astronomy took place with the introduction of nebula filters. Under dark skies, people holding an ultra-high contrast UHC nebula filter up to their otherwise unaided eye see the entire Rosette easily. Try it for yourself if you have one of these in a dark sky with that filter. And this is KF5, JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide number 27, please. There are a few more Astronomical League observing program objects on the constellations of Canis Minor and Monoceros. I've just given you a sampling of a few of those objects. The Astronomical League has, I believe, 73 different observing programs, most of which have about 100 objects. So if you observe just 10 different objects in an observing program each month, then you can earn an observing certificate and a pen in about a year. Slide number 28, and that is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week, or Constellations of the Week. Canis Minor, the little dog, and Monoceros, the unicorn. I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell for the research and words on deep sky objects that I use and borrow and steal every week. Also, at times I use the website constellation-guide.com for information. Now, next time, I'm going to take a look at Gemini, the twins. And this is KF5JHA, back to our net control, N5BB. Bill, it's all yours. 73, everyone.
Thank you very much, Chaz. This is N5BB, Skynet Net Control. We are running out of time. Tom, are there any really critical space launches for the week? If not, we're going to let Brenda speak a few minutes about recent astronomical discoveries. KE5ICX N5BB.
Only that the Russian OneWeb launch was canceled because of the ongoing thing in Ukraine. So those satellites are not going up. And finally this week, Starship, or orbital test flight, is now on the list. That'll launch from Starbase Boca Chica Beach in Texas sometime in early 2022. So we don't know when, but it's finally on the board here as a potential launch. Back to you, Bill, KE5ICX.
Very good there, Tom. Brenda, I know we're running out of time, but you can go over a little bit if you'd like to. Do you want to talk about the recent astronomical discoveries, WB50ZL and 5BB? Brenda, WB50ZL, this is N5BB. You still there? I think Brenda has stepped away. Tom, did you notice that there's any important satellite passages or ISS passes we need to be on the lookout for?
Normal state.
Bill, the only one I'll give is March 12th for the International Space Station. That will be a minus 3.8 magnitude at 5:36 in the morning. It'll reach its highest point at 64 degrees at 5:38 and then fall at 5:41 to the southeast. So that's the one good pass this week. Back to you, Bill.
Okay, that's exactly a week from today. So I think we're going to go ahead and say 73. Does anybody else want to say anything or do any last check-ins before we close the net? This is N5BB, Skynet. Okay, tonight we had 26 hams participating on Skynet.
I'm completely operational and all my circuits are functioning
We hope to join us here next week every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations for this and all the other Dallas Amateur Radio Club nets. If you'd like to try your hand, send email to nets@w5fc.org. You can follow topics and discussion about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and Twitter, as well as all kinds of other resources by going to w5fc.org. Until next Saturday night, this is N5BB, closing a net at 10:30 p.m. local time, and returning a repeater for a few minutes of local normal amateur use before we have the Afterglow net. Take it away, Tom. Tell us about Afterglow in 5BB clear.
Yeah, thank you, Bill. We'll start up here in 5 minutes, so give you a chance to refresh and come back. We'll be talking about raise the Titanic from 1980. Is it science fiction? Yeah, they're trying to raise the Titanic. You betcha it's science fiction. Come back in 5 minutes. This is KE5ICX.
Okay, I'm going to miss it, Tom. As I mentioned earlier on text message or something, I can't remember how I told you. I just ran out of time today and yesterday. 73. See you next week. And we'll try to grab some lunch next week. Monday and Tuesday I may be too busy, but sometime later this week I'll look you up and we'll see if we can find a day we can coordinate on. KE5ICX N5BB, clear and good to see everybody at the Irving Ham Fest today.
Time's up. It's now time for the Afterglow Movie Net. Tonight's movie is Raise the Titanic, which is a 1980 adventure film produced by Grade ITC Entertainment. It was written by Adam Kennedy and is based on the 1976 book of the same name by, yes, Clive Cussler, our friend on airports and bookstores. The storyline concerns a plan to recover the RMS Titanic due to the fact that it's carrying cargo valuable to the Cold War. The film stars Jason Robards, Richard Jordan, David Selby, Ann Archer, and Sir Alec Guinness. It's also the recipient of 3 Razzie Awards for Worst Film of 1980, Worst Leading Actor by David Selby, and Worst Special Effects for 1980. So this is how this net goes. What I will do is I will go ahead and read the plot for this movie so you have an idea of what it is. I will then take check-ins from people. You do not necessarily have to have seen the movie. If you would like to talk about the Titanic or even anything about movies about the Titanic, you can do that if you'd like, or whatever you want. It's okay. We may even ask you, if you've not seen the movie, would you want to see the movie after our comments? Most people reply to the negative, but you never know. I mean, they won 3 awards, not good awards, and I hear that David Selby actually received his Razzie Award for Worst Leading Actor in person. That should tell you something right there. Okay, and we will have probably 3 rounds, so we will start with talking about the plot, then we will talk about characterization and acting, and then we'll take the 3rd round, which is kind of a whatever you want. That would include music, that would include special effects, and anything else, and anything that may have come up or you may have forgotten in any of the other rounds. So let's get started. I will now describe the plot. In the wilds of northern Siberia, American geologist and spy breaks into an old snow-covered mine where he discovers the frozen body of a U.S. Army agent, sergeant. Next to the corpse is a wooden marker dated 1912. Using his Geiger counter, the geologist/spy discovers that the mineral he seeks was there. He is then chased away by a Soviet soldier who shoots him while in pursuit. U.S. intelligence soon find out that the wooden shipping boxes containing the raw material were loaded on the Belfast-built RMS Titanic in April of 1912 by an American. Search is conducted in the North Atlantic to locate the sunken ocean liner. It is aided by one of the Titanic's last survivors, who explains he is also the last person to see the American alive. Just before the Titanic floundered, the sailor said he locked the man inside the ship's hull containing boxes of minerals. His last words being, "Thank God for Southby." Salvage experts begin the dangerous job of raising the Titanic from the seabed, during which one of the submersibles, Starfish, experiences a cabin flood and implodes. Another submersible, the Deep Quest, experiences a battery shortage, which causes the manipulator arm to become locked onto the Titanic's wreckage. Eventually, the rusting Titanic is brought to the surface using multiple compressed air tanks and buoyancy aids. The passenger liner is then towed to a dry dock in New York, its original destination. It turns out no expense is being spared because the rare mineral will be used as a power source in a proposed weapon system that could take down any missile entering U.S. airspace. In response, the USSR challenges the United States over the salvage of Titanic because they claim the mineral was taken illegally from the Soviet Union. On entering the watertight vault, the salvage team discovers the mummified remains of the Americans, but no mineral. The boxes are just full of gravel. It soon becomes evident that the clue was left in the dead American's final words. He had arranged a fake burial in a graveyard in Southby, England, prior to sailing back to the United States on the ill-fated ocean liner. It is decided to leave the mineral buried in the grave because the knowledge of its existence would destabilize the status quo that maintains the peace between the West and the Soviet Union. Well, that's pretty much been blown up, figuratively and literally. But anyway, this is what it said in 1980 when this movie came out. I will now take check-ins for this net. Please come now with your call sign, your name, and did you see Raise the Titanic? Again, it is not required that you've seen the movie. But if you have, let us know. Please, let's begin now.
Kilo Golf 5 Bravo Zulu Whiskey, January. What if I saw the film?
November Tango 5, Tango Mike. Tony, deep under the Atlantic Ocean. I also saw the movie.
Okay, I picked up 2. Now, I understand this may be kind of a small net. It may not. It depends. I know people have been up since 2 a.m. I know people that were up till midnight last night taking care of stuff, and there were people working all day today, and some of you may be asleep. So at any rate, let me get those 2. I've got KG5BZW, Jay near Rutherford. He says, yeah, he saw the movie. NC5TM, Tony, yes, he saw the movie. Additional check-ins, please come now.
Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brenda in DeSoto. Yes, I saw it.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth. Yes, I saw it.
Okay, we picked up WB50ZL. That's Miss Brenda in DeSoto. She did see it. KB5SOK, Sean in Fort Worth. He saw it. We got enough of a quorum here. Anyone else who would like to check in? I'm checking Echolink. I see Bill, W5BLT. Well, I'll go ahead and ask. Bill, you want to check in? I think everyone else is already... Oh, and JJ at 5IMS. I can check you guys in if you'd like. Just come now. Either in the... Well, if you're going to talk about it, you'll have to come in over audio. So let me know if either of you would like to check in, or anyone else who is listening. Please come now with your call sign, your name, and did you see Raise the Titanic? All right, we may get some stragglers later on. Sometimes we get from the late net folks to check in, so we'll see what happens. So we've got enough for a quorum right now, so let's start. And I'll go in, we'll go in the order you guys checked in, that's fine. KG5BZW, Jay, you saw the movie. What did you think of Raise the Titanic?
Alright, this is KG5BZW. Well, it's one of those things where I'm kind of glad I didn't know anything about it going into the film, because it ended up being better than I expected. Actually, hold on, let me reset and go to Echolink. KG5BZW.
Yeah, sorry, just listening to the sound of my voice over Echolink, and I was like, yeah, I could do better than that if I got Echolink. Yeah, but of course it's got some, I don't know if I deserved the Razzie Award that apparently won, but it's got some very silliness to it. Lots of silliness. Maybe ignoring the whole raising of the Titanic thing, just the old trope. This is too powerful. We'll just leave it. Well, you got the two guys there at the very end, like, oh, what was that? Now I don't know. Let's dig it up, find out. I mean, it's like you can't really resolve it like that. The feint or whatever by the Russians was kind of, I mean, silly. Maybe it wasn't a feint, but it became a feint when the others, the Americans had shown that they had their torpedo, their subs, and all that. I don't know. There's several things like that. I should have written them down. I don't know. It's just a lot of silliness. But at the same time, I don't know. I kind of appreciate it. It was a movie. KG5BCW.
All right, thank you, Jay. And next is NT5TM. Tony, you saw the movie Raise the Titanic. What did you think of it from KE5ICX?
Well, I first saw this movie, and people may not remember this anymore because these were the awful years of human existence. You couldn't just watch a movie whenever you wanted to, like we can now. But, it would run in the theaters for a while and then move down to cheap theaters, and this was the very early days of home videos, so a movie might not spend some time in home video purgatory. And then it would appear on TV where they would cut half the movie and then add 3 times as many commercials as the movie they cut, and you could see it on TV over sometimes 2 or 3 nights. It was ridiculous. And that's how I first saw this movie, and I was a young person then, and a lot of the movie didn't make sense to me. Why were they raising the Titanic? What was this stuff that they said they needed? Why couldn't they just, get it out of the ship? I mean, make a hole or something. Why are they doing all this work? And the movie bore a horrible resemblance to Star Trek the Motion Picture, in which the plot seemed to be subordinated to long shots of, look at our beautiful models, look at our beautiful submersibles, look at the ocean, isn't the ocean pretty? I'm not going to talk about the quality of those things, that's for round 3, but they just kept pausing and taking extra time to look at these things. It was so slow and so hard to understand, and now I'm an old, grown adult, and it didn't get any better. Apparently, from what I could gather online, they spent most of their, at least a big fraction of their budget before filming had even started, getting ready to do all the effects. And they seem to have spent that money at the expense of plot. Oh, maybe they tried not to do it at the expense of plot. They had lots of screenwriters who kept rewriting it, but it didn't get any better. So slow, so nonsensical, so illogical, what Mr. Spock would have said in Star Trek the Motion Picture. Again, why would you raise a whole ship to get something that they stated over and over again in the dialogue that they knew exactly where it was and what it looked like in the wreck? Surely they still had dynamite in 1980. They hadn't lost that secret somewhere in the dim ages. So the idea of raising the entire ship, even if, that no one knew about rusticles and things back then, I'll forgive them that. The idea of raising this entire enormous and extensive wreck to get to something that was really, would have fit in a, 30-foot or 24-foot, whatever it is, rental truck, just doesn't make any sense to me. And the plot was far too slow, far too padded. The story could not suck me in. It didn't suck me in when I was a little kid, and it doesn't suck me in as a middle-aged adult. I just didn't care very much. NT5TM.
Boy, what a curmudgeon. Oh, jeez. You probably got a lawn chair, and you sit in the lawn chair and shake your fist. Stay off my grass and don't watch Raise the Titanic. I hated it as a kid, and I hate it even more now. And that's what makes me about you walking on my grass. Get out of here. Never mind, I digress. Next up is WB5OZL. Brenda, you picked the movie. What did you think of Raise the Titanic from KE5ICX?
WB5OZL. He's lying. I did not pick this movie. I never heard of it before. And had I reviewed it, I would not pick it. This is dumb. Talk about dumb. Not one person in this movie realized that Byzanium doesn't exist. They cost lives and millions of dollars for something that is a phantom. So that's my first problem with it. And then I didn't understand how it was even feasible to race the Titanic. Has anybody put the science to this? It's this big metal boat, 12,000 feet down. It's full of water. It has a big hole in it. And you're just going to put balloons and float it up? I just find this implausible. Anybody ever done this before? I don't know. Now, people who have read the book say it's wonderful. So, does this depart vastly from that story? That's a good question. If anybody's read the book, I'd like to hear a report on that. I also have a problem, plot-wise. They spent lives and money on this mission, and then when it was over with, the guy says, nah, leave it in the ground. We don't want it. We don't care. Which amazes me, what a change of heart he had. I won't say everybody in the movie was stupid, but there was a lot of that. And I think it was just kind of banking on the whole, the mystique of the Titanic, that people loved it. People are taken by this story because it's not the only movie they've made about the Titanic. All right, I'm going to send it back, WB5OZL.
Wow, another one. Well, all right. Let's move on to Sean, KB5SOK. Sean, you saw the movie, and I bet you liked it. What did you think from KE5ICX?
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Well, unfortunately to disappoint you, Tom, this movie was a lot like the Titanic. It sank. It was absolutely horrible. And it was definitely one of those movies that I kept looking at my watch going, when is this going to be done? We spend the first half of the movie basically just talking about things, not really doing anything. We finally think that we're going to get to some action, and then we spend 20 minutes just watching subs drive around in the dark, and we couldn't see nothing there, neither could they. So then they had to throw in a scene basically to try to spice it up with the sub accident, which lasted all but a minute. And then we went on to, all at once, this was going to take months to, in just 12 hours, we're going to raise it. So they patch a hole, plant bombs, send it up, and apparently this thing moved 12 miles in 10 seconds until it got to near the surface. Then we spent 20 minutes again waiting for this thing to come out of the water. Funny enough, Tony, I agree with you. That was the first thing I thought when I was watching that scene was, wow, this is a lot like Star Trek the movie. This slow pan. And then once the Titanic finally came up, then we see him walking around on the deck for another 10, 15 minutes, basically another slow sequence. We just seemed to have one slow sequence after another, and obviously they were trying to find some way to fill in. This movie was very obviously was supposed to be, I think, about the whole finding a new power source that could once again be used for, inappropriate, purposes that turned into a bomb, and they used the idea of the Titanic, I think, just to get people to actually go see this movie, because as it was mentioned earlier, people were fascinated by the Titanic. So therefore, just throw that in the name. People will come see it. You can definitely tell this thing was rewritten, and in the final cut was just pretty bad. We spent a good chunk of the movie, building up to this Russian and U.S., conflict here. We knew something big was going to happen, and then they talk for a few minutes and it's over. Talking about a letdown. I was thinking we were going to finally see something exciting happen, and that was just massively disappointing. They spent so much time playing it up. And like a lot of movies we've talked about before, once again, we sort of kind of had a little bit of a love story thrown in there. A little bit of a love triangle with the, her ex, running the show, and her new boyfriend, being the scientist, and, but yet that didn't really go anywhere either. So I once again, it's not that I'm against love stories. When it's done well, they're enjoyable. But when you just throw it in just for a filler, just because you think you have to have it, it's just not done well. It doesn't serve the movie any real purpose. And then, obviously the very end, when we get to where, I guess he has to struggle with the ideal of knowing that most likely this thing will be turned into a bomb and not a power source, he decides to walk away. Once again, it was just kind of anticlimactic, and it's just poorly written and I think poorly acted. This one was definitely a snooze fest, unfortunately. But all I can say about this plot. Back to net. This is KB9SOK.
My goodness, 4 thumbs down and maybe 1 finger up. I'm amazed. Okay, let me, before I make my comments, I'll go ahead and ask, is there anyone else who would like to check in? We're talking about the movie Raise the Titanic from 1980. If you'd like to join us, please come with your call sign, your name. Did you see the film? You don't have to have seen it. If you didn't, it may even be better that way. Please come now.
November 5, Hotel Yankee Papa.
November 8, Whiskey Romeo, and 8 WWR Romeo and Grapevine. I'm in and out, Tom. Didn't see it.
Okay, we got 2. We're only just checking in as NAWWR, and I've got Tom, N5HYP. Shamed him into checking into the net, and he did it tonight. Tom, did you see the movie by any chance?
This is N5HYP, only enough to actually, well, first of all, besides it was so bad, it put me to sleep for the first time in 40 hours. So, God. It was so choppy, and the dialogue was so just weird, and sometimes so unnecessary, and just confusing, and boy, it deserved every award it got. And I'm out for tonight. That's it. But I showed up. This is N5HYP. God bless, guys. Bye.
All right, thank you, Tom. Wonderful. At least you showed up. I mean, you got 3 Razzies. It's fantastic. And Romy, by the way, it was good to see both of you. Tom, it's good to see you, and most of the folks on here I got to see as well today, so it was good. Sort of Easter Sunday for ham radio, for Ham Fest here in Irving. Let's see here. Okay, I'll give my comments about the film. First off, there was the big boat race. I thought that was pretty good with the the water skier, and then they had the machine guns they were shooting. That was pretty cool. I liked that. Then they had the super yacht. That was cool. I liked that, you know, and when they were chasing it with the submarine and the super yacht, who knew this submarine could go that fast? That was pretty amazing. I thought that was good. Then there was the space launch they had at sea. That was pretty cool. Obviously, I don't know, but maybe you slept through those parts of the film. If you had paid more attention, you would have enjoyed it more if you'd only known. Oh well, let's see. Things about the movie. Well, okay, it went slowly and then it got even slower after that. That's true. That's true, but that's meant most English films are like that. But because it was an American film and it was written by, are you ready, 17 different people. 17? You just decided it was bad. But 17 people put their nose to the grindstone and said, we're going to make this work. And they did. They worked as a team. They worked sequentially to make it happen. Now, I don't know what else I can add about, you know, I already gave you all the exciting parts of the film, but when I first saw this, I actually rented it on beta from the local video store that had beta. There was one. It was about 3 miles from where I lived, and I would go over there and get it, bring it back. And when I watched it, it shows the Titanic and the credits are running and everything. And it shut off and the regular TV came on and it was the anniversary of the sinking of the Titanic. April 12th, I think? April 12th, 1912? I forget now. I should know. Anyway, it was in April, and that was the day the Titanic had sunk. So you tell me. Maybe that's what gave it such a positive thing, because they had people talking about the Titanic sinking right after the film. Yeah, it kind of was a little thin on plot, I agree with you, and people wandering around not doing anything, because really, you know, when you don't have a real story, what are you going to do? So a good chase would have worked. Maybe people shooting each other on the Titanic while they look for the stuff. And that made sense. And yes, Tony's right. They could have just simply sent one of those deep sea submersibles down, and the little mini one. It went in and opened the safe or whatever and found the stuff and all that, and it would have been perfectly fine. But no, we had to bring up the whole ship. Now, there was a case of that where they did bring up a submarine. They actually tried to do that from the depths of, I forget, was it the Atlantic? And they almost did it, except the submarine broke in half in the process of doing it. That, too, also had Russians sitting off the shore off where they were doing the excavation in hopes of finding it. And it was a Russian sub, by the way. So that was quite interesting, but they only got a portion of it. And that was done in, what was it, 1967, so I'm sure there was an influence from Cussler's story of Raise the Titanic for that same thing. But the documentary I saw was far, far more interesting than what they did here. That could have been a lot of fun, just the mechanics of bringing the ship up, which is, I think, what they wanted to do in the first place, and the technical aspects of it. And you could have lost a lot of people, just like they did on this thing. By the way, the deep sea submersibles, who maintains these things? It's got leaks and bad batteries and everything else. Jeez. Hams on the very worst day of their lives would never do any of that stuff, and these people are so-called professionals. Didn't anybody notice the thing was leaking when they went down? I mean, come on. Or the batteries, you get on board and the batteries have acid and it's leaking around, and the soles of your feet or of your shoes are like melting or something. They didn't notice that? They didn't smell it? When was the last time they changed batteries? Come on, man. What kind of a recovery operation is this? Not a good one. All right, let's go ahead and go to the top of the list. We'll talk about the acting acting in this. There's a ton of people in here, a lot of character actors, people we come to know and love and hate and all that good stuff. I have some special comments on one of them you didn't even notice, but I will wait and start at the top with Jay. KG5BZW, what did you think of the acting and actors and characterizations in this film? There's a zillion of them, so go right ahead from KE5ICX.
KG5BZW, hold on. Okay, KG5BZW, back on Echo Link. You know, there's so many characters. Well, I mean, it's not like you can't have a good, I'm trying to say, it's not like the more characters you have, the worse the movie is or anything, but it's just, there wasn't really that many people memorable. You got the scientists, you got the pirate slash whatever. They called him a pirate, but somehow he's got all this other expertise, which didn't make sense. You got the captain, you got the love interest, you got the Russians. I don't know, the Russians, I guess, handled okay, except for when, you know, they were put against the wall or whatever. All that build-up on the Russian side and for nothing, like somebody else have said. I don't know. It's not, it's like, I don't think there's anybody that I really loved or hated. I just, it didn't bother me like some films, but I don't know, like most of, I think the others have said, yeah, a lot of the problems were with the plot and the slow development and aimless drifting of everybody. And then all of a sudden they raised it up for real quick and, oh, wow. And then there's those needless deaths of, I mean, well, maybe not needless. They had to do something, right? I'm straying back into plot territory here. I mean, I think the actors did as well as they could with what they were given. I guess the love interest did maybe have the most interesting thing that just didn't really go anywhere. I did feel some sympathy toward her, I guess, but there's just not much to say. So I'll just leave it at that. KG5BCW.
All right, Jay. Well, you know, you didn't go into deep thoughts about the actors or the characters. You just said the actors just dealt with what they had. Okay. Well, that happens. Next is NT5TM. Tony, your thoughts on characterization and the acting. Please go ahead from KE5ICX.
Well, I mean, they clearly all could act. No one used their "I'm an actor and this is high school" voice. So, I mean, they all were actors, and they all seem to do that for a living. That's good. I was particularly moved by seeing Richard Jordan in a role when he was younger and didn't know about the tumors that were silently growing in his brain that were going to kill him in 1993. Because I first saw him as General Low Armistead in Gettysburg. At least I first remembered him. I know I'd seen him in this when I was younger. And so it's like, oh, he's young and vigorous here. That's kind of nice. Good to see him being healthy. You know, but kind of sad because his character dies in Gettysburg, and I felt that was very poignant given the actor's personal circumstances. The characters existed. But really, what I'm scratching my head about is I'm wondering if we can learn to tell that a movie's had too many writers because it has so many of these things that don't go anywhere. The Russians, they don't matter. The Titanic itself actually didn't really matter. Love interest, that didn't matter. Things just sort of begin and then fizzle away without ever being used. And I guess that's, perhaps when you're doing rewrites, you don't want to be too bold and just highlight everything with your cursor and then hit delete and just obliterate things from the script. So maybe that's a good way we can use to tell that a movie has been rewritten too many times. So yes, I in fact have basically nothing to say about the characters, except it was nice to see Richard Jordan as a younger actor, and I wonder if we can learn how to detect rewrites by using this untidy end metric, NT5TM.
Thank you, Tony. Well, yes, it's obvious because the actors' cadence, the way they speak, and their reaction and actions to things, people who write differently. And so, and sometimes when a contemporary character is speaking and then goes into thee and thou, we know that we've changed to a different author, maybe from a different century. I don't know. If the movie is in a long development, it's possible that they would have used early English in order to do it. Plus, they had to wait for the film technology to actually be invented and then continue on. So the screenwriter could change over time, and the style would change as well. That's entirely possible. So maybe that's what happened. Okay, I'll come back. I have lots of things to say about characterization in a moment. So, Brenda, WB5OZL, what do you have to say? Think only good things about the cast and the characters. Please go ahead. KE5ICS.
This is WB5OZL. Let me just back up a little bit. I'm going to say something nice. It's not the worst movie we ever saw. Okay? That's a positive note there. And something else. It had John Barry music. My goodness. His filmography is huge. And of course, you all recognize him scoring many of the James Bond movies. You could probably recognize that from this thing. So, it's definitely a bright spot. It's like great music. The characters, I couldn't tell them apart, sort of. Now, I did like Sir Alec Guinness in his role. I mean, he can do no wrong, in my opinion. He's Obi-Wan. Come on. And the guy that got the Razzie for his acting, I didn't think he was that bad. I didn't understand that. But, as far as characterization, that a lot of the characters were kind of one-dimensional. So how can you go wrong? Just put some guy in there and let him talk. It wasn't very much character development, or interaction, or conflict. It just seemed kind of cardboardish. Let's see, what else can I say about the characters? I thought they really didn't seem as upset over people dying as I thought they should have been. But I don't know. Now, I don't think a submersible could get down in the hold. I don't think it would fit. And they did explain that divers, it's too deep for divers, obviously. And maybe if I had punched a hole in the side to get into the hold, maybe they could go in with a submersible. But I I think that would have been a logistical problem. Okay, back to net. WB50ZL.
Boy, was that lackluster. Yes, we know. The worst movie we've ever seen was not Plan 9 from Outer Space, which actually is further up the list than, what was that film? Let's see, Tingler was pretty bad. Film, I just gone out of my head. Oh, The Creeping Terror. The Creeping Terror. That was the worst movie we've ever seen, and that wasn't even recommended by anybody in our group. Not even Brenda picked that one out. It was a coworker I had that said, "You won't believe it. That's the worst movie I've ever seen." And he's right. It's the worst movie anybody's ever seen. It makes Plan 9 from Outer Space look great, and it even makes this film look good. That's how bad it is. So next up is Sean, KB5SOK. You probably got something really positive to say about this. The star power in this movie was just overwhelming. It was supernova size. So tell us, what did you think about the acting and or characterization from KE5ICX?
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Oh, boy. Yes, the actors, I've seen them in other movies do very well. You know, most of them I have recognized from other stuff, and they definitely did a better job. So I'm going to blame this on the writing, because I know they're capable of more. Yeah, they're just, I think it's already been pretty well said. They're just very flat. Things didn't really go anywhere. No one really grew. I guess you could say the scientist gained a conscience at the end, but I actually think that he was probably the worst actor of the bunch. I just didn't buy the scene at the end either. Man, I wish I agree. This is not the worst movie we've ever seen. By far, we've seen worse. I've never actually seen this Creeping Terror that everybody talks about. I guess one of these days I'm going to have to watch it just so I got something to compare it to, because we seem to compare everything to that movie. Even though I can't remember the name of the movie we watched about 3 months ago, I think, that we said actually outdone The Creeping Terror as far as being the worst. So I guess on that respect, yeah, we've definitely watched worse. I just wish I had something positive to say. Like it's just very flat characters, not much. Storylines just didn't go anywhere with each of them. Once again, I agree. There's definitely these actors have done very well in other stuff, just not in this movie. So we'll just chalk it up to the writing. Back to net. This is KB9SOK.
All right, thank you, Sean. And, well, here's what I would do. This is what I would do. Oh, wait, I'll ask, is there anyone else that would like to check in? Please come now with your call sign, your name, and did you see Raise the Titanic from 1980? I'll give you a chance to respond. All right, so here you go. Here's what you have to do. When you get a stellar cast like this, you've got James Robart. He played the president or something. You've got Richard Jordan, who was the guy chasing after the Rana. In, what was that movie? That fine film in the future. Now I've forgotten. Oh, Logan's Run. And Runner in it. Logan Runs. Or Logan's Run. So, with the possessive, of course. But by the way, I don't think it ever had that. It didn't have the little thing at the top that made it a possessive. Oh well, doesn't matter. You had Alec Guinness. This is not the ship you're looking for. It had Emmett Walsh in it. I need that spirit. I need that Blade Runner. That guy. And it had Dirk Blocker in it. You remember, Dan Blocker was his father. He said, "Here, hold my beer," and Dirk did. But the person that I just find amazing, and you got to remember that I was the president of the Chuck Napier Fan Club, and if I'm president of the Chuck Napier Fan Club, you can bet I've got an obscure character to tell you about. An actor, Paul Carr, who played the CIA director Nicholson, was in this film. Let me reset. Now, this is like that, I don't know what you call it, the whole group there, and they're trying to decide what they're going to do, and they've got all this, they've got the defense thing, and they're going to save the world with this power supply that they're going to use, and all that stuff. Well, Paul Carr played the CIA director. This is a bump up from what he usually did at the time, and in fact, you may have caught a glimpse of him tonight on Buck Rogers. But Paul Carr was the guy you always hired when you needed a crewman on something that was moving. He originally appeared on the second pilot of Star Trek, and he was killed in the first 20 minutes of the episode with a large cable that was wrapped around his neck, and he was pulled behind one of the consoles that he was trying to send up to the Enterprise. You remember him. He also was a crewman on Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, and he was a regular on that, so he spent a lot of time being possessed by aliens, resurrected from the dead, fighting with ancient pirate ghosts and all that. So he had a very long resume on that, doing that. And then he appeared on the second season of Buck Rogers on The Searcher, and he was the guy, in fact, he used the same steering wheel that he used on the Seaview, maybe that's how he got the role, because he had a steering wheel on The Searcher, and he was very expertly able to handle that steering wheel. But he got a bump up, a promotion for CIA Director Nicholson. That's a pretty big move up for Paul Carr, and he didn't have a steering wheel either. Now, Alec Guinness, he had, 3 minutes in the movie, and here, take this flag and put it on the ship. It's the one I stole when I got off the ship, pushed this lady overboard so I could get her place on the life raft. What a guy. But here's another favorite of mine, David Selby, who was nominated for, supporting actor for the Razzies. He played Gene Seagram, 7, I guess. He played a whiskey bottle in this. But the thing that was interesting about him is that I remember him as a kid playing, not Barnabas, was it? I forgot. He played the ghost on that. Quentin. He played Quentin Collins. That's what he did. Quentin Collins on Dark Shadows. And as I told some folks today, he played that role. He never said a word for the first 6 months he was on the program. All he did was appear out of nowhere with his beard and not say anything, because he was haunting the thing. He was from the 1800s and haunting Collingwood. So he already had that, the ability to act without ever saying a word. So there's always that. And then he appeared on Falcon Crest. Now, what he did on that, I don't know, and I think he lost the beard at that point. I'm not sure, but if you're a fan of Falcon Crest, you would have recognized David Selby right there, playing Gene Seagram 7 in that. He was quite the guy. So I don't know, I thought that was fine. And then, let's see, I told you about Emmett Walsh, right? He was on Blade Runner. Good job. Always saying he was in, what was it, that movie with the banjo thing? He was in that, playing the same character. He always plays the same character. In this one, all he did was admire the propeller on one of the submersibles. That's his line was, his whole time on screen was about 35 seconds. Let's see, I think that's it on all the characters in that. As far as the characterization, yeah, everybody was two-dimensional, even though they went in the water, which made them three-dimensional and wash and wear. But, I don't know. And Jason Robards, come on, they dressed him up like a clown in the later years, so what do you expect from the guy? But you know, at some point you just say, oh, I was going to say so. Oh, I remember. Hold on. There was something I was going to read to you guys. Hold on. I found it in the casting. Here we go. You'll like this. Let's see. Elliot Gould was offered a lead role but turned it down. I don't want to raise the Titanic. Let the Titanic stay where it is. Jason Robart said he did the film for money, Madeira money. We're all incidental to the hardware and the special effects on this one. And then in October of 1979, Richard Jordan, it just says he was cast, but then Clive Cussler made a cameo in the film as a reporter at the script conference. There's something else that gets said that was really interesting, but hold on. Doesn't matter. Okay, that's it on that. That's all I had. So we'll do one more round. I'll go ahead and go to the top. J, KG5BZW, what do you got to say about anything in the film? You can include music, special effects, something you forgot to say about the film, something you remembered to say but didn't say it, that sort of thing, all that jazz. Jay, go ahead. It's wide open. Say your piece from KE5I6.
This is KG5BZW. Yeah. I remembered something I wanted to say again, and then I forgot it, so it wasn't really that important. Was one of the Razzies for worst special effects? I mean, that's clearly where all the effects, that is clearly where all the money to the film went, just because, I don't know, I thought the special effects, I mean, yeah, sure, you could tell that when they were raising Titanic, they have a scale model because, you know, water physics and all, but other than that, and, you know, it's also, you know, whatever about the actual, I'm no comment on the thing that they raised. Not. It's got to be a better word because raised also sounds like, you know, blade. Yeah, the special effects were decent. There were just so. I said before, there's just so many stupid little things to this film, and yeah, I agree with Tony that the fact that there's a lot of characters that just don't do anything is probably a good metric, and that applies. That should apply. We should apply to future films that we watch. Like, if there's a lot of characters that just don't do anything, yeah, it probably went through a lot of rewrites that, you know, just to try to improve it mediocre bit by mediocre bit. And the music was actually good, but it's like the composer didn't know where else to go with it. So it was just, the theme was good. Let's just put it this way: the theme was good, but it was used a lot, and it was a little bit overdone, I think. It was good. It was a good theme. I can't argue with it. I really don't know that the composer knew what else to do with the film, which makes sense for this film, given everything else that happened to it. So, yeah, yeah, I'm going to leave it at that. KG5BCW.
All right, Jay, thank you. I like some of the special effects sounds you made. I guess that was the ship rising or something. I don't know. Maybe it was the interstitial tick because you can't come up with anything for the film. You're trying very hard to do so, and you were coming up empty, and that's gotta hurt. Okay, next is Tony, NT5TM. Tony, your thoughts on special effects, music, something you forgot to say, something you think the movie should have had, something you thought the movie shouldn't have. Did you feel that 17 people writing the script were not enough, or maybe too many? I don't know. Tony, go ahead with your comments from KE5ICX.
Well, you know, with enough screenwriters, they could have simply used them as extras in films to Pickett's charge scenes in the Battle of Gettysburg, and then we could have watched that movie instead of this one. They clearly thought so well of their effects, and they dwelt on them at such great length. And by the standards of not very good effects, they were great. But Jay is right. Water physics are hard. In big masses, water is just big blobs, big rolling waves, even big tsunamis. And then you get, on small scales, you get all those droplets and little water tentacles that seem to reach out from the top of foam-crested waves. Water, unfortunately, is just not fractal. You can tell the size of a water feature by what kind of shape it is and what it does. So that was a beautiful Titanic model. They clearly worked so hard on it. I learned online there was even an Easter egg. We see a tiny miniaturized human crew person pumping like a hand pump on the Titanic as hard as they can as it comes out of the water. I did see that. I even backed up and found it. So they worked hard, but it never quite worked. And it especially didn't work when they were entering New York Harbor. The compositing of that, whatever they were using, going under the Brooklyn Bridge and past the Statue of Liberty and all that, it just looked terrible. They didn't get the light levels right. The effects were just not all the amazing things they thought they were. I do have to say, I thought the music was supportive. I would rather the music had been used for some other movie, but at least it treaded dangerously near to cliches in places, but it avoided a lot of Hollywood cliches. It supported the movie, or at least what the movie was supposedly trying to do, I think. Hard to tell sometimes with this script. But the music was not a problem at all. And again, they meant well, and it sure, must have been a lot of fun to build those big Titanic models, but they were too proud of their effects that just weren't really all there. NT5TM.
Okay, Tony. Very good. Next up is Brenda, WB50ZL. Tell us your thoughts on anything you want about this movie from KE5ICX.
Oh, WB50ZL. Anything. I didn't keep wanting to turn it off. It was just kind of blah to me. And I don't think it was... It wasn't so much bad as it was just kind of blah. We've seen so many movies where they're almost offensive because they're so dumb. But I don't think this one was that bad, and I didn't want to turn it off. I kept watching it. So anything else? The special effects, those were pitiful, though. I'll have to say that. When they brought up the ship, I just don't picture it being like that, in my opinion. Actually, I think it's kind of hard to find much to say about this movie because it was so blah, and that maybe they thought it would just be a great idea, but to make up this hokey element, but that was kind of cheesy. It was just, I think there was too much contrivance in it. That's all I'm going to say, WB50ZL.
Okay, if you say so. Next up is Sean, KB5SOK. Do you have something you want to say? Something that will add? These people feel that everybody who's speaking feels like I get the feel that their life force was sucked out of them while watching this film, and it's just reliving bad memories from just the other day by expressing their lackluster interest in this film. Sean, I don't see you as one of those people, so you tell me, in the broadest, brightest details you can, anything you want about the movie from KE5ICX.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Yeah, I agree with everybody. The music was decent. You know, we'll stick with the positive. You know, that part I felt was good. You know, I agree with Tony. It was obvious they put a lot of effort, and they really did try. But it just ended up feeling a little bit like a made-for-TV movie. Fell a little short. I do appreciate the depth you went, Tom, into some of the actors and other stuff they've done. You know, that was very enlightening. I did learn some stuff there, so that was a positive. As far as, you know, special effects, yeah, it's you know, it is what it is. Nice models, but poor effects. Yeah, that's, you know, we'll just keep it with the positive stuff, you know. And I agree with Brenda. This wasn't, you know, by far the worst thing. You know, you know, I never shut it off, so it's something. So yeah, we'll just look forward to the next one. And just to mention, it seems like we've not had a good history with Titanic, haven't we? Wasn't there another Titanic movie we watched way back that was rough? Anyway, back to net. This is KB9SOK.
Now you see, everyone, Sean tried to put the best face on a movie that sunk, just like the ship did. But he did. Everyone else was just so bummed out about the film that it just brought the energy level down. Okay, yes, we did. We watched Titanic 2. No, it was not a sequel, although this is actually a sequel to Titanic, I guess. But no, it was Titanic 2, where they built a completely new Titanic and sailed it, and something happened. I think it hit another iceberg, probably the same one, and it was looking for them. Serial iceberg killer. So that happens, you know. But, you know, music. I was going to tell you about music. Yes, John Barry was the maestro, one of the top 5 guys that was orchestrating movies, but he's best known for his James Bond films, including the original theme, which he wrote. You will note that at the time that this movie came out, actually, he had come off of, what was it, Moonraker, which I think was 78 or 79, so 1980. And from what I understand, I'm not super cognizant of Moonraker. I don't have it on. I don't have that recording. I got a lot of John Barry stuff, but I do not have that one. But I understand that it was very close, almost kind of note for note to that. So that's why you got that James Bond feel to it when you're listening to it. Barry liked to do that with all his stuff, so bear that in mind. Let's see. Special effects. I made a mistake on the Razzies. It was not special effects. Actually, special effects were not terrible. It was worst screenplay. Worst screenplay nomination. Didn't win that year, but came close. Worst screenplay. But wouldn't that have been cool if it had won worst screenplay and all 17 people had to go up and accept the award for worst screenplay? Wow, what a moment that would be. Come on up, everybody who worked on the film to make it as bad as it is. Come on up here. Let's everyone in the audience, please note, keep an eye on all these people. These people you do not want to hire for your movie, because it just 17 of them just turned this film from a best-selling novel into the worst flop cinematographic. in cinema, you know, the cinema where of any film made up to that time. So there you have it. One of the things they do mention this thing is, on the special effects is they made the models way too large. Now, Tony mentioned about the fractalization of water, but I'm looking at a freeze frame from the actual shot. I thought it, you know, that never-ending shot that they did, and it looks pretty good because the water has a better granular part because the model's 4 times larger than it should be. What is this thing, 40 feet long or something? Which is ridiculous for a model to be that long for the thing, and it had taken up a lot of the budget. And as I think Tony mentioned too, the Easter egg, you can actually see this model from space on Google Maps. Just go to the Wikipedia for Raise the Titanic. It gives the longitude and latitude, and it's a hot link, so you don't even have to bother to put it in, and you can see it there. You can also see what it looks like now, currently. But, I mean, this thing, once they're done with it, what do you do with it? Well, you dump it on the back lot and wherever the hell they were, where they filmed this thing. Somewhere, I don't know. Any rate. Oh, I was going to mention one other thing. They said that the Titanic was one of a kind, and it was not. It had a sister ship. What was it, the Oceanic Titanic? I think it was Oceanic. I'd have to look it up. All right. Something like that. You can look it up and find out on your own. And they compared, in fact, they used that ship as an example to try and understand why the Titanic went down. Now, even a sister ship, like most ships that are very complicated, even if it's a sister ship, there are design differences when they go in. First ship they build, okay, we find out that there's something wrong or it's not quite right. We're going to change the design on the next ship so it's not so expensive, or economy of scale, or something that they do to make the ship better, safer, cheaper, maybe all of the above. So, I think it was the Oceanic. I really can't remember, but check it out. There is a, let me reset here just a second. Somewhere on YouTube, somebody has uploaded a documentary they did on the film. It's about an hour long, maybe a little longer than that, talking about the whole thing and how they figured out why the Titanic went down. And there's been numerous stories of how the unsinkable ship shouldn't have sunk, and it did. And we all know about the compartment failures, but there's a lot more to it, and the way that the iceberg cut into it. If you can find that and watch it, it does go into detail about the sister ship. So if you find that, and they feature that quite a bit, that's the one you want to see, because it goes into great nerdish detail, which we all are, to explain the Titanic sinking. Okay, does anyone have any final comments before I unleash the next movie? Does anyone have any final things they want to say? Blindfold, cigarettes, anyone? Please come with your call now.
NT5TM.
All right, I got Tony. Anyone else? All right, Tony, I think you have the final word. Please go ahead.
Well, thank you, Tom. I just wanted to say that, first, I appreciate you being here and staying up. It's been a long day. And second, there was a class of 3 ships, the Olympic, the Titanic, and the Britannic, NT5TM.
Well, thank you, Tony. If anybody could find it or Google it properly, it would be you. I didn't Google it, but very good. That sounds right. And, of course, it's right because you found it online, and everything that's online is true. Okay, very good. Yeah, check it out. It's pretty cool. Let's see. Next week's movie. Now, everybody hold your breath. You know you want to know, and now I got to find it again. Now, I think it's over here. Ah, here it is. The list of movies. Right here. Next week's movie. Are you ready? It's an alien invasion film called Brave New Jersey from 2017. It's going to be a good one. I can feel it. Better than, of course, Creeping Terror. very low bar, but it's possible. All right, till next time, I'll send it out. If anybody's listening and wants to join in this, just send me an email, Kilo Echo 5 India Charlie X-Ray, KE5ICX@yahoo.com, and tell me you'd like to be put on the list, or go to Facebook and look for Afterglow Movie. That's 2 words, Afterglow, and then movie, and we'll get you in there, and you'll find the movie listings under files or part of the discussion. Sometimes I throw some links in there, and others have comments about them. Like this last one, we had a ton of movies about the Titanic, which is always fascinating, including Star Trek Titanic, Doctor Who Titanic, I think Star Wars Titanic, and Titanic. You never know. All right, we'll see you next week. Next movie, Brave, New Jersey from 2017. Bye-bye, everyone, and get a chance to sleep. Some of you get the chance to sleep in tomorrow, and you're probably well-earned if you worked the the Irving Hamfest this week. I'm surprised some of you are still here. Catch you then. This is KE5ICX. I'm clear.